Welcome to a place at the table where it is all for one and one for all. I'll be letting you into the daily grind of a mother bringing up a child with autism.
I have a stake in your advocacy, Kingsley. In the spirit of all for one and one for all, I recommend we all take a leaf out of the book of Canada's Prime Minister's Mark Carney and take the signs down.
What signs, Inca? Perhaps you're speaking of the for let and sell signs with figures that are so inflated, hardly anyone can afford them.
I second that motion, Zuma. Cut our coats according to all our sizes. I'm saying it's time to confront the beggy culture. Elsie, are you with me?
I'm not with you today. I'm on the side of the sensational artist Priest who says, I go cut my coat oversized this year while I present a case study on the former governor of Abia State, Governor Orji Uzor.
Elsie, this your appetizer has me restless to hear more. Are you with us? We move. Her day starts at 4:30 a.m. while most homes are still wrapped in sleep. Her child never slept through the night, so it's likely going to be an unpredictable morning. Meltdowns or a silence so heavy it presses on the chest, head, and shoulders. School is never guaranteed because they are unequipped, unwilling, or simply too expensive for children with autism. So she becomes a teacher, therapist, and minder. By month's end, the bills arrive. Speech therapy, music lessons, all paid out of pocket. Many mothers quit their jobs because care is full-time. Income shrinks, expenses rise. Sex left the bedroom long ago. She explains her child endlessly to relatives, neighbors, teachers, even strangers. She feels intrusive questions. Why is he not talking? At night, fear creeps in. Who will care for my child when I'm gone? Will any system exist to protect him? Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan took the first step by proposing the National Center for Autism Establishment Bill 2025, which passed its first reading on October 30, 2025. According to a 2014 prevalence study, 2.3% of Nigerian families are affected by autism spectrum disorder. What will this bill mean for them? That mom in Ekiti, Zungeru, or Zobolo, or Nembe trying to understand her neurodivergent son. Will it ease the burden of families that pay twice the tuition other normal kids are paying? Will it protect parents from predatory school owners, therapists who exploit desperation? The bill proposes a national center for autism in Abuja and 6 zonal centers in Bauchi, Kaduna, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, and the North Central, offering free early screening, specialized training for educators, therapists, better school options, and public awareness to reduce stigma. This definitely sounds like El Dorado. May it come to pass. Did I hear you say amen to that?
Amen.
Autism does not disappear, but the pain of carrying it alone can. For this mother and her son, an autism policy should not just be paperwork. It should bring relief and dignity. It should be the difference between merely surviving and thriving despite the burden of autism.
I just want to say that the reason why this is very important is it's very expensive to take care of a child with special needs.
Yeah.
I mean, we as parents started the therapy for my son around 2010. And even at that time, the cost was in the millions. 2010.
Yeah.
So I shudder to imagine
What it is now.
what parents are going through trying to manage these children. It's expensive. So the reality is that a lot of parents can't afford it.
Yeah.
So it becomes a financial and economic subject. And the reason why they can't afford it is because the number of therapists and special schools that are to attend to them are few. So it's a demand and supply issue.
And none is in the public. There are no public schools actually.
There are no public schools. So what we feel that's very important is that there has to be some intervention, government intervention, to train therapists, to train shadows or people, caregivers for them. And in doing this, the cost of intervention will reduce. Okay? And at the same time also, parents themselves, who are also very much impacted, will also have relief. Yeah.
We need to do more than just policies. We need to create awareness and sensitization. You see, I've seen educated people with special needs child go the spiritual route. They'll say, oh, it's a spiritual attack. You know, we see different instances, and these are exposed to educated, not one, not two, you know, and this stems from inadequate awareness and sensitization. First of all, acknowledging it for what it is. It's okay to be different. You have a child who is different. You know, it's not any village people who is attacking you or not. And we need to implore the National Assembly to facilitate a swift passing of the said bill. And kudos to Senator Natasha.
There are just a lot happening in Nigeria at the same time that we still have to touch on everything. So thank you. And I actually like that you started the response to the conversation, because I feel like there are certain issues that when it comes up, you allow people who understand it and people who have gone through it to speak from their perspective, while we sort of add to whatever it is and also help for you to come forward. Because in Nigeria, even we that don't have special needs, have they taken care of our needs? Do you understand where I'm coming from? You know, so big kudos to really, you think? But kudos to Senator Natasha, like we've said, and we hope that her colleagues would push this forward too and ensure that it's part of the bills that are being passed swiftly, so that things can begin to happen. And even when it is passed, we want to also see it being adopted across the zone. I mean, she talked about national center and then the zonal centers, free early screening, better school options, public awareness. Those are what we're advocating for this special needs children, and also the parents, because again, it's nobody's fault, right? But when we are creating a place for equity, which is what I always love to talk about, not equality, then everybody has to be given an environment to be able to thrive. They are actually very amazing, sound people, right? And they're very intelligent. So we need to do something, and we need to do it fast.
There are just a few things that would be nice to add. Oftentimes when we talk about additional needs, not an absolute, but generally, it's usually her, mother, just like you're advocating.
And sorry, I thought you guys were going to ask me, why are you talking about moms?
Because mothers generally are the primary caregiver.
So,
I'll tell you.
moms, so knowing that something like this takes a toll, I think we need that inclusion of more fathers to support, because even the people that I see, oftentimes, they are just always women.
Yes.
When I go for conferences, when I go, I've done training, the room is full of women.
Women?
I've seen cases where the man left the marriage because of
the
child.
We just need to let more men understand that this is a challenging situation and they need to be involved in it. Elsie, we all have special needs, though. All of us. Everyone has, but that's a separate conversation. I also want to say that people call some children normal children. So we need to correct that as terminology, because all children, irrespective of their additional need, they are all normal children. They have a world that they live in, and in their world is complete. That is their own world. I worry for a lot of families that have children with additional needs. As he said, they are so, the costs
burden is high.
It's a lot. Now, we live in a country where education is a problem for neurotypical individuals. Now we're talking about neurodiverse individuals. Teacher training is a problem in Nigeria, even for neurotypical people. So when you talk about neurodiversity, you don't even have skilled people. You'll find that they still lock people up in 2025. They will still leave the child, even in schools, with just a nanny. And there's exclusion going on in the classroom because it is not understood. So that awareness is actually key. So schools are our training centers. I've tried to do some courses in Nigeria. It just doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. So that's the reality. Another thing that I would like to recommend is, because this is called an autism center. This is proposed autism center. Autism is a spectrum. Developmental needs, neurodivergence is beyond autism. Yeah. We have Tourette's syndrome, ADHD. Sure. There are so many. Yeah. Conduct disorder, intellectual, speech, language delays, mood disorders, countless. We cannot have a center for each one. So I would recommend National Autism and Neurodevelopmental Center so that we can begin to address this on a larger scale. And then, in my experience, I find that a lot of people, the minute they don't understand the child, they'll say the child has autism. When you go for assessments, if you go to someone that has dyslexia, it's a so-called dyslexia expert, they will say the child has dyslexia. If it's a global issue, they will say, oh, it's global. So, whilst it's expensive, I still tell parents, please, go to more than one person. When you go to the second person, don't tell them you've gone to anybody else. This is for people that can even afford it. Yeah. So you can just imagine what people are going through. Yeah. So a step in the right direction is better than nothing. Yeah. So I commend that something is at least
conversations
are happening. Thank you.
Policy is meant to address the challenges of real life and make the necessary difference, or they are just rituals and suggestions, as some have said.
Kingsley, you speak as though you were here last week. Were you here in spirit?
I watched.
It's time we call a spade and took the signs down. A new year demands a new vision. On January 21st in Davos, Switzerland, Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, delivered what is being termed a historic speech about the global order. It started with a story from Varkan Halver's essay, The Power of the Powerless, the story of a greengrocer who hangs a sign in his shop window, not because he believes it, but because every person expects him to. Carney argued that for decades, countries have played that same role, hanging up signs that read something like American hegemony, rules-based order, mutual benefit through integration. Not because they believe in it, but because refusing to display the sign carried consequences. It challenged companies and countries to take the sign down. Why? Because we now live in a world of great power rivalry, a world where the rules-based order is fading, where the strong increasingly do what they want and the weak are told to align or suffer. Carney didn't frame this as a binary choice between submission and isolation. He instead articulated a thought path for which he called middle countries. For countries strong enough to matter, but not dominate. He challenged them to build resilient economies at home and work together for mutual benefit because, in his words, you cannot live within the lie of mutual integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. Perhaps what I admire most about the speech was that Carney didn't absolve Canada of complicity in building the same order now collapsing. He owned up to it. The speech read in part like the obituary of the rules-based international order and also like the birth announcement of a new world order. And this is where Africa must pay attention. Because for once, the world is admitting the truth we've lived for decades, that integration didn't mean inclusion, that globalization didn't always mean dignity. This moment offers Africa an opportunity, not to beg for a seat, but to renegotiate our value, to align strategically, to build regional strength, and to show up not with signs, but with terms on the table. The question is no longer whether the old order is ending. It is ending. It is whether Africa will arrive early or be written into the footnotes again.
I think the era of the rule-based order underpinned by the US leadership is over. Let's not pretend about it. It is over. And the reason I insist it is over is because till date, nobody can call the US out. Nobody has dared. If you sell to the US and the US is your largest buyer, that muzzles you completely. So I'm hoping that indeed there will be emergence of the middle countries, and then let's see what difference they can make. Canada is already taking its destinies in his own hands. The conversation, the deals with China, with Qatar, and I think the EU generally, it's a reflection of the fact that proximity is no longer an advantage.
Yeah.
You know, that we're close and you have what I need doesn't really make you
My best customer.
Yes. I can go as far as Japan to buy what I need, even if you have it. And I'm certain that you won't wake up one day and close the borders. You know, so I think there's a wake-up call. Unfortunately, Africa is not at the table.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that is what we are seeing play out now in the world economies. Like Kingsley said, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. I love your advocacy, and I love Carney's speech. You know, it was introspective. It will make you reflect on where you stand as a country. I don't think that there was anyone at Davos who wasn't impressed by that particular speech. My favorite quote from the speech was, "A country that cannot feed itself, for itself, and defend itself. How do you claim national autonomy? How do you claim sovereignty?" So, which is a question we need to ask ourselves as Africans, as Nigerians. Can we feed us? When we talk about import-dependent economy, you know, we can't. When we look at, can we fuel us? So people were saying, oh, Dangote is doing monopoly this, monopoly that. You know, but at least it's still a path in the right direction. Yeah. You know, and then also defend yourself. We're having Terra-Aptics developing security surveillance infrastructure, you know, but people are not proud of that. So the first thing we need to do is look inward and see, how do we achieve national autonomy? And then subsequently, how do we stop exporting our raw materials? You know, how do we start processing more? You cannot lie. You cannot live with the lie of mutual benefits through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. That is the truth. We can't keep deceiving ourselves. We are not on the table. No. We are not at the table. We are on the table. We are what is being shared.
But this is an opportunity for us
to come together.
There are realignments coming up right now. So this is opportunity for us to be on the table and not be the menu.
The reality is we are too small to be on the table individually. All we can do is come together as a block.
Okay.
You know, and be part of the middle powers.
If you say that it has definitely changed and still nobody can call them to order, then it's contradictory, because it means that we're still where we are. Nobody is ready to stand up to them and really say, yes, I'm the one talking to you. What you're doing right now is wrong. Everybody's still waiting for who will take the bull by the horn, right? Which is why I love this speech and I love the advocacy you just take. I think this is the kind of clarity that this movement needs. And Africa, yes, we want to come to the table. They say if the old sign doesn't work, we should take it down, right? But I would say if it no longer serves us, we all should also not rush to just put up another illusion because we want to replace something. We need to go back, like Zuma has said. Look at our strengths, regional strengths, not just, oh, this is Nigeria, this is South Africa, this is Ghana. I mean, some of the things you talked about in terms of raw material and all, we can see some countries in Africa have done something. Ghana, for example, with their raw material and chocolates and what is going on there. There's a lot that is happening, right? AU, African Union, need to come together and decide and ask themselves as leaders of people, huge number of people that have been projected to even grow beyond what it is now in the next 10 years. What do we want to be at the table? Do we want to be, borrowing your words?
I always say that most of the problems we have in Nigeria, in Africa, is a result of education that has not been properly delivered. We don't have the right education to keep us rooted, to understand these things. So our minds are colonized. We feel that when we come to this table that we're talking about, they are doing us a favor. So who are the people sitting at the table? When they see that foreigner, when they see that person, and begin to bow, what type of conversations are they going to have? So those sort of things really, really worry me. I don't believe that we can stand up, maybe not overnight. I feel right now we're still on our knees, begging and just believing that they are doing us some kind of favor. We are performing globally. We perform, we dance to whatever it is that is being offered to us. And Africa must stop performing loyalty. We need to understand that we need to negotiate from a place of strength because we have a lot going for us. We have a lot. Look at IShowSpeed in recent times. Even some things that I haven't seen, ever so beautiful, Africa. We are so rich, but we don't know that we are that rich. We don't have the right conversations. We don't have the right vocabulary. We don't know what to do when we get to that table. So those are where the challenges are. We don't even invest. You know, when someone is going for a job, I think, was it Elsie? Someone mentioned this in one of our advocacies. And you have a local degree as opposed to somebody that has a Harvard degree of 30 minutes online course. They will still choose the Harvard degree over the local one. We don't even invest. We talked about the duo in Abuja, Maxwell and the other, Maxwell Machuku, those guys.
And Maxwell.
Again, it's the foreigners. We don't believe in ourselves. And that's why I'm very passionate about doing it for the children, so that they can come out and have those conversations. And they're beginning to do that. And we can see that change is happening.
If we don't move with the times and even shape the future vision, we are condemned to repeat history again and again.
Yinka, not all forward motion is progressive. Take the inflation in the Lagos housing market. That has produced empty luxury apartments while many are homeless. Lagos is more than a city. It is an idea. It is a heartbeat of Africa, fueled by the sweat and ambition of millions who go there to build a future. Over the past few days, Lagosians have been in pain. They have taken to X, also known as Twitter, to vent their shared frustration at the predatory increase in rent. They are seeing 80 to 400% increases with no improvements to the property, while landlords are citing market forces and inflation as excuses, right? People are being priced out of the neighborhoods they have called home for decades. Families are being forced into debt, substandard housing, or relocation back to their villages. Lagos faces a massive affordable housing deficit. We see luxury apartments in Ikoyi standing empty, while the everyday people, the mechanics, the teachers, the tech builders, and the traders struggle to find a place to lay their heads. This madness will not end until the Lagos state government makes housing a human right, not a luxury. Lagos grows by over 1 million people every year, 90% of whom are low-income earners. We cannot leave their fate in the hands of private developers who are only incentivized by high-end return. The state must actively invest in affordable housing with matching infrastructure. We need incentives that make low-cost housing a viable reality for developers, not just a marketing buzzword. The Tenancy Law 2011 has been treated as a suggestion for too long because enforcement is low. We need the state to protect its residents from the lords of the land. We must expedite the passing and, more importantly, the enforcement of a new tenancy law that restricts advance rents to a maximum of 1 year for new tenants, caps agency and legal fees at 5% of annual rents, criminalizes forced evictions without due process, and mandates transparency through mandatory receipts and biannual service charge accountings. Lagos State, your citizens are your greatest assets. Without them, the Center of Excellence is just a collection of empty buildings. It is time to step in. It is time to protect the people who make this city move.
I think that I've done a couple of advocacies around this, even if it's not directly on saying housing,
done
right?
on real estate.
Yes,
and all that, yeah.
and I'll try to start from the optimistic part. I'm just seeing a news where the Lagos State government, I think this was on the 19th of January, says that they would intensify strategy for 2026 to expand the state's housing stock and address the deficit. I mean, the deficit is around 3.4 million now, and they are estimating to build 3 million to address that. And they're looking to finish up projects that have been pending. I think Songo Tedo phase 2, Ibeshe phase 2, and all that, you know. And I mean, looking at this, one can say, hopefully, something will change. But there is also a fundamental greed culture that needs to be addressed, whether we're going to do it from the legislative point of view the government has to step in, because why are you increasing a property by 400%? I don't understand.
Are we
all supposed to carry guns? What exactly are we supposed to do? So there needs to be laws that are not just suggestion, that need to be carried out, right? And then implemented rather. And then back to this, let's assume or hope that this housing unit then comes to life. How do they plan to ensure that it really serves those who need it? Because we've seen situations where these houses are built. I mean, the former governor of Lagos, Fashola, did a couple.
Lagos home.
We've had a lot, right? But then we also hear that people who are of means find ways to buy and occupy these houses, and then we are still struggling to pay the rent.
So this is me trying to somehow stay in the middle. All right, and don't crucify me yet.
I'm not.
Are you representing Lagos State?
No,
I'm not. In the middle?
I'm not. I've actually, at this table, done a few advocacies on rent regulation. And I could remember when I made one of the suggestions, the people who at this table were the ones that crucified me. And one of those recommendations was the fact that you cannot say that you have housing deficit. If you add the housing deficit in Lagos and Abuja together, you have over 5 million. And then you have empty buildings in this state that are not occupied. And then people are looking at it. And one of the suggestions I said was that government should do a regulation that says if you have a building and it's empty for 1 year, they will take it over.
I agree with you.
And they will rent it out.
I agree with you. In fact, I'm hoping that somebody will talk about it.
They will rent it out.
I have a property, I didn't use for 1 year.
Yes.
Why are you not using it?
Because you see,
Because my kids are not here.
Exactly.
Yes,
So that's the problem. So you see the problem there.
So you don't need
so- Exactly.
Let somebody believe in them before they
It was people at this table, some of them property
I
owners
agree
and
with
landlords, who said, my property, you will come and take it. And that's the problem you have. So
And that's reenacted. That's
yes, that's the problem you have. So that we know the problem. There's a housing deficit issue.
Yeah.
But we also know that government cannot fill that gap completely. So there's going to have to be some collaboration between government and private sector to do this. And when you're talking private sector, it has to be profitable. So you cannot make regulation for the private sector that the private sector looks at it and says, no, I'm not even going to go there because it makes no sense for me if this is the case. So we're going to need to have some reasonable middle point here.
There are case studies where this thing has worked. I was reading, when I saw your advocacy, I was trying to find out this problem is not peculiar. We cite countries that are taxing their people and then we choose to tax our people. There are countries that have solved public housing problem. Why are we not studying that template? I saw the Singapore model, and it's perfect. Yeah, it has its own, but it works so well. One of the things they did was this whole idea of you have a house, you can't buy the public house, the public,
You can only rent it.
You can't own it if you already have a house. And if you do that, you've solved a lot of problem.
Yeah.
And then, using high-rise, maximizing spaces to build high-rise buildings.
We don't have light.
For lift,
Yeah.
We don't
Anyway, I agree. I mean, that's a point you're making.
Yeah,
but at least let's solve the problem
It's a
first.
valid point, yes.
You can still do up to 5 stories. We'll
Yes,
climb
do even 10.
How will water get up?
it will if you get up. We
You
have 5
can do
stories.
that. You put the
buildings in
tank
Nigeria.
up there. Then it is a social human right approach. So all the buccaneers who want to make money, go and find land and build elsewhere. But this one, we want to solve a problem. And beyond solving, what I've also found out was the Singapore's approach to crime prevention was linked to housing. So because there's no slum for you to run into, you must live in a decent environment. And you can't commit crimes there because we're going to fish you out. So while we're complaining that there's so much crime in Lagos State, people are being chased out of their homes. We are creating opportunities for criminals to hide. So why don't we solve those problems in such a way that people can find a formal settlement where you can tell that, okay, this is my neighbor, he's a criminal, let me report him. Or he's not. That's my take. Let's study what has worked and see how we can muster the political will and the right intention to solve a problem.
Thank you for the advocacy. It's really timely. We need to do something about this issue that we have in Nigeria. I think I read somewhere where Governor Sanwo-Olu did say that people should not charge more than 1 year. But like we've said here, it's the implementation. Yeah. But I know I have read it. And
there's a law.
There's a law.
Yeah,
there's a law regarding
There's a law. And when
So
those pass, they
definitely,
adhere.
so I know
They
it
was
exists.
dead on a right.
So how do
they
we
did.
how do
They
we
adhere.
implement? Is a lot of things. We have a lot of things written down in Nigeria. Implementation is always a challenge for us. So we need to push so that people can have
Who do we report to?
exactly.
When they say we should pay 2 years.
When you say we should pay 2 years,
No. Most landlords in Lagos actually collect 1 year. Most.
Yeah, they do.
The problem
They've shifted.
the
Within
problem
last year and this year,
is-
they've shifted.
the
They are now
agents.
It's
going
the
back to 2
agents.
years.
The agents.
is the agents.
okay.
It's
So what are the
agents, really.
consequences of
Thank
all
you.
this
Of
that is
breaking
happening?
such
I'll give you
laws.
Who do we report
practical.
to?
I'll give you just practical how it's affecting the everyday man. So, take for example, I work in an estate. Our school is in Parkview Estate. I've noticed that Parkview is an old estate with a lot of old people now gone. Their children are there, and we live in an environment where it's a japa, so they're half abroad, half there. A lot of them are breaking up the homes, high rises
Short
everywhere,
apartments.
short-let apartments. Okay, so Mr. Inka has said that they should take over the homes. Who will determine the price, the cost, that rent? Who is going to determine the cost of it? Because homes in Parkview are unaffordable. I know someone that has just taken a home in Parkview for 30 million naira. 30 million for 1 year. Just
Buying or renting?
renting. What are you talking about?
Renting.
So who determines the price? Even if they take
even
over.
that kind of house, if she tells you the size and the amount of rooms inside, you will get the picture.
If I take the house,
So
who
let's
will
not think
determine?
it's just
Can I
30
give
million
you-
of any
can I-
house.
Hang on. I have to
prescribe a solution
no,
for you?
hang on. I want to use your own example because you said they should take over our homes. So the last I checked, I think you have some spare rooms because some people are not looking for houses. I hope you realize.
Yeah.
Some people are just looking for a room. They don't even mind sharing the bathroom. I think you have some spare rooms in your house. So let the government
Who
start
says I have
seizing,
How do you and I have-
seizing.
I have-
They need to start seizing spaces
No, but
in your own
that's
home.
begging the issue.
You see, the point here is, look, government coming in to take over is not just by fiat. There will be incentives to the developer.
You should say it that way.
Yeah,
If they're
that's
snatching
part
my
of it
home, I have
now.
a
So
challenge.
there'll be tax incentives, for instance. If government says to you that, okay, because of that, I'm going to give you a tax holiday for 2 years.
Yes, that makes more sense.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's not
But
going
don't just
to be
take over my home and tell me that
you
somebody
know,
will
and
live
the rent still goes to you but what the government is doing is just to make sure that that property is not empty and the rent will be location specific. So it's not for somebody who is living in Abule Egba to think that it's going to go and pay the same. No.
So if we don't do something about
Anyway.
it immediately, there's going to be problems because even teachers,
I don't have a problem with Abule Egba people. Sorry.
teachers
Before they start
cannot
coming
get
after
to
them.
work. People cannot get to work. It's affecting children now because they don't have a place to stay. So there's a lot of absenteeism in schools now.
The saying, what goes up must come down, should be made to apply to the Lagos housing market. Don't you think, Runke?
As if, Zuma, after all, greed is an insatiable customer. When IShowSpeed streamed from Nigeria, he didn't come with a script or an agenda. He came with a camera, and the camera held up a mirror. Beyond the music, the laughter, some embarrassing displays, woo, woo, and the energy, another pattern stood out. Begging. Not hunger alone. Entitlement. People pleading, pushing, hovering, demanding favors. A bodybuilder received a free gift of $1,000, then asked for $10,000 instead. He got nothing. A gift became a negotiation. Gratitude disappeared. Expectation took over. This is not just about poverty. This is not just about poverty. If it were, it would be easier to address. This behavior cuts across airports, offices, hotels, churches, homes, and social spaces. You pay for a service and are still pressured to tip, not as appreciation, but as an obligation. You return from travel and are asked, what did you bring? Sometimes refusal is met with offense, force, or theft. We now pay waiters at parties to feed us. This did not start today. We must be honest about history. The Almajiri system, once rooted in care, mentorship, and responsibility, collapsed into street begging when structure failed. Over time, begging stopped being survival and became social currency. Slowly, quietly, it entered mainstream culture, beggy culture. Yes, this is not who we were. Many of our respected elders were givers, not beggars. They worked with pride. They helped without pressure. They received with gratitude. Dignity mattered. Labor mattered. Boundaries mattered. What worries me most is the next generation. Children are watching adults extract instead of earn, demand instead of build, expect instead of contribute. We are unintentionally raising a generation that believes someone else's success owes them something. Culture can change, but only if we name what is broken. We must reteach dignity at home, professionalize service culture, normalize saying no, and shift from begging narratives to value creation thinking. Nigeria is rich in people, talent, and spirit, but entitlement weakens all three. When money is all we respect, shame becomes acceptable. And that's why the nation is in trouble. That is how a nation loses itself. Begging may feed today. Dignity builds tomorrow.
I don't know how we got here, to be honest. Even when you cited the Amalgary system, like you said, there was a structure to it until that structure collapsed. And now I even saw the complete ID card of beggars. I don't know if you saw that.
I've not seen
I saw
that
it on the social media, right?
Applying structure across
Yeah,
everything.
so those people you see on the road now, let's just even start from there. They actually have people they remit to.
Yeah.
So there is an informal structure that has been allowed to fuel the culture of begging. You can't even those that have tried, those with amazing hearts, because I'm not sure if I get their hearts. They've tried to take some of them out of the street. You can't. It's either those that own them will come for you, or they will run away and go back to the begging. They don't want a job. They want to beg. So I remember when Fashola was packing all of them back to their states, and everybody was, against it, saying, "Oh, we are all Nigerians. We should be able to accommodate each other and all." But it doesn't take away the fact that there's a fundamental issue that needs to be solved. Entitlement is another part of it. A friend of mine was talking about how he drove into a property. Of course, he drives a very nice car. Everybody was hailing him, "Oga, what do you have for us?" He said within him, he thought, okay, when he's leaving, he would tip them something. But where he went to carry some things from the building. He was carrying these things alone. They sat down near his vehicle. Nobody said, "He remain, make I help you." He climbed up 4 times, carried it, opened his boot by himself. They did not even say, "Let me hold this for you." He opened boot. He struggled himself, put everything in his vehicle. When he was about to drive out, they were still waiting for him.
Anything for the boys.
And he was wondering, yes, I didn't. He said to me, "I didn't get to where I am now automatically, but I had to work." Like, even when it is your uncle that is giving you something, family, you tell yourself that, "Let me look for something to do for this auntie. Is your clothes dirty?" Because you understand what it takes to be able to take out of somebody's sweat to give you, and then you try to make up for it because you are not entitled.
And it is not rocket science. In Abia right now, we see there's a kind of renaissance happening. The average Abia person is having a rethink of his self-concept. And you can trace that to what the government is doing. The guy got in, and I was going to, I'm jumping the gun.
Why don't you just save that for advocacy? Why are you jumping the gun?
Okay. Should I land? All right.
Land.
So he's providing not just political leadership, but he's providing the template for the people of Abia to rethink and evaluate themselves and improve on their self-concept. I think that's what needs to happen in our system. We lack political leadership, the kind of leadership that the countrymen, the citizens can see themselves in their political leader and start to mimic, for lack of a better word, their lifestyle. You see churches, apologies to those who don't believe in pastors, but you see some people who at some point they start to dress like their pastors. The pastor never told them to dress like him, but that is leadership that is influence. So I think this beggy culture, apologies to Ronke, can we challenge ourselves and foster the kind of political leadership that our people can fight behind and start to do the right thing?
I would like by saying our beggy culture stems from rent seeking. I mean, we want value without generating value. This entire idea of unmerited favor, unmerited grace, something will just happen. It's what is driving. You're at the airport, they're asking you. Recently, a friend called me that I was looking for a driver, and then I was like, oh, what happened to your driver? Because in every quarter, he has a driver using. I was like, oh, he reached out that I wanted him to buy him a car. And then I was like, okay, I use you for a total of 40 days in a year, and I pay you every month, irrespective of that. I don't know what you do with your time, with all the other things, And then you come back and say, I was like, okay, it's because all you diasporans, they think you are rich. Shortly after, like 2 weeks after, a driver I use randomly called me also that, oh, his car has engine trouble. He wants me to buy him a car. He'll be using it for Uber. We'll be paying me small. I had to pause and check, like, what precisely is going on here? I don't even know you like that. Like, why do you... I can understand begging for little things from maybe tips, strangers, and all of that.
Begging in the DMs.
See, my DM, I don't even know, if I don't know you, that we don't have mutuals, I don't even bother opening it. So I think it's more from the idea of rent seeking. We just want value that we haven't generated. And I think we all need to take personal responsibility. Like Kingsley said, we need to take responsibility and say, okay, this is not what we want to, we don't want to be known as a country of beggars. I don't want to be known as a beggar. When people say, oh, you should ask, there's nothing to ask. We are not God. You are not my parents. You are not responsible for providing for me. So those are the things we need to internalize as individuals and let it cascade down to the younger generation.
I used to think it's a culture of entitlement. And I used to advocate on that it's cultural, that is how we are. And it stems down from part of what Kingsley said, from political leadership. Because when you see what the politicians do, they call it patronage, right? So a politician would tell you that, for me to come back into office, the people that put me there in terms of
sort them out.
All the delegates and all the godfathers and all that, I have to do political patronage. That is a nice way of saying beg.
Yes.
And so our people look at that, and then it cascades down. Even the traditional leader also takes from these people. The pastor, the imam, takes from their people. Whether it is in seed offering, prophet offering, whatever it is.
Best years, best months.
And people see that from the leadership, and then it builds this culture where people expect some things. I went to a village. I went to my village sometimes, and then my uncle. This is my uncle. Not like came aside. He just gave his list. He gave me his list. This is the kind of phone he wants. This is the kind of shoe he wants. This is this. And
he wants to rip the fruit.
And I just look at him and I'm like...
Was it the one that sent you to school?
No, I'm just looking at him like, on what basis are you asking that? Because and this is because I work in Lagos, that's all. So the Nigerian mindset is such that if you drive a car, you are better than the person who doesn't drive a car. So so the person who doesn't drive a car is entitled to your money. So I've always believed in that, but I kind of just this December I kind of just said, look, let's stop blaming it on entitlement, because it seems as if we can just put it there. It's just bad behavior.
Yeah.
It's bad behavior. You are buruku. So let's just call it what it is.
It is.
And
You're
zero shame.
Yeah. A nation cannot beg its way into greatness. What we excuse today becomes what our children inherit.
Ronke, you need to say it louder for the restless politicians without legacy, who are afraid about being irrelevant. Some might say, no rest for the wicked. I am the lion of the street. If anybody thinks APC will fight here and another party will win, it's not going to happen. And this was said by the former governor of Abia State, who is now a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Orji Uzor Kalu. The self-acclaimed lion of the streets is part of a group of people whom my ever-vocal brother, Peter for Nigeria, calls the Association of Failed Governors of Abia State. Old age should be a soft landing, a time to sit back, reflect, and be remembered kindly for the value you added when it mattered. But when men spend their prime years feeding off the system instead of building it, old age becomes restless. There is no peace for legacy built on deceit. On the 5th of December 2019, the Lagos Division of the Federal High Court convicted Orji Uzor Kalu and sentenced him to 12 years in prison for defrauding Abia State of 7.65 billion naira. Then the Supreme Court comes in and nullifies the conviction, not because he was found innocent, but because the judge who delivered the sentence had already been elevated to the Court of Appeal at the time of judgment. Today, this same man, alongside other enemies of progress, has chosen to wage a campaign of calumny against Governor Alex Otti, a man whose work speaks for itself. It is visible to the blind and loud to the deaf. Abia is changing, and for once, governance feels very intentional. Yet, the old guards who once had the same opportunity to build are desperate to destroy. It's hard to watch men who should be mentors turn into merchants of misinformation. But it's also a lesson that when your hands are stained, the wisdom that should come with experience disappears. You lose the moral ground to stand for anything, and soon, your alliances become transactional, a desperate attempt to keep your forgiven sins forgiven. There is a reason legacy outlives power. One fades with tenure, the other grows with time. The tragedy of many Nigerian politicians is not that they lost relevance, it's that they never end it honorably. And when you spend your youth avoiding governance and intentional leadership, old age will not let you rest.
I don't know anything about Abia politics and how it has progressed over the years. But one thing I do know is I hear a lot of really nice things about Alex Otti. You know, every Abian I know, I've spoken to, like, oh, he's a revolutionary. You know, he's got great ideas and is implementing them. They're saying it. Kudos to him. So Orji Uzor Kalu, I also don't know a lot about him, but you know, people are upset that he's trying to push out Otti. I support.
I will allow the men to speak last because they seem to,
especially the Abians,
not only enjoy it, but they have the depth more than I do. The only positive contribution I want to mention is the fact that Kingsley called it Ekwe. You know, he said, and when you spend your youth avoiding governance and intentional leadership, old age will not let you rest.
Oh my goodness.
It's a fact.
And I really wish I can believe that statement totally. And I agree with your advocacy, and it's great. For those people that actually know what legacy means and believe in what legacy means, I believe we have a large majority of, I'm not calling it a large majority, but a growing number of people that are not looking at legacy. It's chop and die. But like, how can I chop right now? So they're not looking at legacy in the way that they should be looking at it. So I personally know of people growing up. My dad was in the army. We all know many things happened. And their parents have chopped money. And they're okay. I feel karma doesn't always happen to everybody. And that's the reality of it. And I had a similar question yesterday online, and a lot of people saying there's no God. Blah, blah, blah. If there was God, people would not be something. They have that. So karma doesn't necessarily happen to some people. Actually get away with it. They live comfortably still, despite what they have done. You know, God is a forgiving God after all. He steal all the government money and then just say one little prayer, and that's it.
Governor Otti's sin. His sin is the fact that the boys are no longer chopping.
His sin. Oh, okay.
That's the biggest sin. Every other thing is screensaver. The fight you're seeing is screensaver. The real fight is the fact that he came and stopped nobody sharing money.
Stomach infrastructure was removed.
Yes, that's the word.
Even the pension to the former governors was
he took out everything.
reduced. Yeah.
And if you've attended the meetings of political parties, it's a sharing forum. Nothing happens there. That is gone in Abia State as we speak. My prayer and wish is rather than feel diminished, rather than see themselves as being minimized by Otti's groundbreaking efforts, can they be shameless and try to toe that line he's starting? Do you understand? Because the people of Abia State will rather die than go back to where they're coming from. And the guys who were the sharers, the sharing formula was benefiting a few people. You understand? So that's the community that are rising up against this.
Incumbents.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think they've lost. The train has left the station, and there's no going back.
Alex Otti. Again, I fall in Zuma's category that I don't necessarily follow Abia State politics in terms of what it is. I have quite a number of friends from there, and again, just to confirm, they speak well of the governor. I mean, I have to be very fair about that. They speak well of him. They talk about the infrastructural development. I haven't seen any infrastructural, development. I don't know what it is.
You can see it online. It's all there.
Sometimes
Subjective.
it's subjective. So if you
That
say
Lagos is smelling is not subjective.
no, I mean
It's not.
it's in context. So
It's
that's
not,
so that's what
please.
I'm saying, that I don't have a problem believing what people say.
About Otti?
About Otti. Without, I've not been there, I don't say it. About the fact that it's irritating. I'm pretty sure that Abia State is not paved in gold.
Of
The
course.
streets. But I'm sure he's trying with the resources that he has, within the limits of that resources. Everything you said about Alex Otti, I believe. I don't doubt it. I've not been there, but I don't doubt it. You said it. It's there. You said it's obvious to the blind. But I don't know. that's it. I don't doubt it. Okay.
It's a figure of speech.
Yeah. But the point I'm trying to raise, somebody will say, am I supposed to praise him for building roads? No.
For doing the bare minimum.
That's his job. It's the same kind of way when we talk about Lagos. Sometimes we should put the same level of,
Acknowledgement.
exactly into it, and not
I think because he's
say some
pioneering
things.
it. He's pioneering
So,
it despite all
but this is what I want to say about Orji Uzor Kalu. And again, Orji Uzor Kalu, Senator Orji Uzor Kalu. So that's, we should not wrongly name him. I also don't follow him. I don't, really rate him in any given way. But I know how to separate political speech from, normal speech. And the quote I'm seeing here, I'm the lion of the streets. If anybody thinks that it's political speech,
That's empty.
that's how politicians speak. I'm pretty sure that when Alex Otti himself goes for campaign, he will say something similar. Nobody will win Abia State for us. We will say
He's not
so.
He's not saying anything similar.
So
He's not.
he will campaign for his party, Elsie. He will campaign for his party. I will not go and campaign and say, oh, you know what, if you
I'm a
like,
gentleman.
vote for us. No. He's going to speak. That's the way politicians speak, not in Nigeria, everywhere.
As Kingsley said, it's one for all and
All for one.
we know you are with us since you joined us at the table. We look forward to seeing you again, same time, same channel, next week. Till then, it's goodbye from all of us.
Goodbye.
Bye.